How is this actually working now? Let's see. How is this actually working now? Let's see. I restarted my. Is this actually working now? Shit, now I'm getting some feedback. I restarted my stream software, so hopefully that works. Let me know. Cool, sound is back. All right. So what I was saying was, right now I'm editing this Kill Your Idol set from Sunday night. So there were 2 shows in Philly on Sunday. The first show was Race Trader, played at this place called The Fire, which I'll be editing later today. And then the second show was Fireburn and Kill Your Idols. For those of you who don't know, is it still looping? I muted my speaker, so it should not be looping anymore. So for those of you who don't know, Fireburn it has members of Bad Brains and Warzone, and I can't remember who else. Todd Jones isn't in the band anymore, so for a while it was also Nails, which is kind of cool. But so during Kill Your Idol set, which is what I was just playing, Izzy, who sings in Fireburn, and he actually sang in Bad Brains for a little bit, he came out and did a Bad Brains cover. And hold on, did my stream just cut out? Let's see. I keep having like weird internet issues, and I don't know what's going on. Give me 1 second. Trying to see what's going on. Waiting for a response. It says I'm live, but I don't know what the issue is. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I don't know. But anyway, I'm working on the Kill Your Idol set right now. And so this part that I was just playing, like I said, it was a Bad Brains cover. Later on in the set, they did a Warzone cover. So basically between Kill Your Idols and Fireburn, there's a bunch of members of Warzone. And so they decided to do a cover of As One, which is cool. I'm just going through some of the comments now. Let's see who we got here. We got like 14 people. Vincent Pern, thanks for the amazing videos. Thanks for checking them out. Appreciate it. Esco Gaming, Esco Gaming liked the Knock Loose video. Seems like a lot of people like the Knock Loose video. It already has like 20,000 plays after a couple days, which is pretty crazy. Who else do we have here? Hello from France. I've actually never been to France. I'd love to go at some point. I think Birds in a Row is from France. Is that right? I've seen them a bunch here, and I would love to see them back, or see them in their hometown. Yeah, I heard the Knock Loose, and I saw a video of the Knock Loose set at Worcester, the Palladium. So Palladium is a big venue. I don't know what the capacity must be, like 1,500 people. I don't know. The last Bane show was there, and the fact that Knock Loose sold out the floor of that place is pretty wild. And the videos I saw were incredible. So it's cool to see what that band is doing. So I'm gonna go back to editing the set. Hopefully you can hear it once I start playing it. I'm gonna mute my mic so you don't get any weird like looping back. But if you have, so the format of these sort of live streams is pretty relaxed. I'm basically gonna be editing for a couple hours today and gonna let you guys watch if you want to tune in. If you do, I mean that's cool. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat, and I will definitely every now and then I'll pause what I'm doing and respond to people, and kind of want to make it interactive. So actually, a couple questions just came in. Yeah, I'm excited to see Knock Loose at This Is Hardcore. I think that a lot of kids are going to come out just to see them, and I think that's going to be a very interesting vibe. and I hope it works out well in terms of. I mean, I said this yesterday and I said it before. I think Knock Loose is bringing new kids into hardcore. You know, there's kids who they've only ever heard of Knock Loose, maybe from Warped Tour or whatever it is, and they're very excited about that band. So they'll come out to these shows, and they'll, you know, on this last tour they came out to see Knock Loose, but they also got exposed to Terror and Jesus Piece and Year of the Knife, like really important current bands. And so I think it's important to recognize that Knock Loose has the potential to introduce a lot of young kids to some really good hardcore bands. So I'm very excited to see how they are received at This Is Hardcore. Nowhere Movies, what's up? So for editing, I use Adobe Premiere. For the last couple years, I was using Premiere CS 5.5, but a couple months back, I switched to Creative Cloud. So I'm currently using Premiere CC 2018, and I love it. There's a lot of cool features here. I really like some of the changes that they made, but yeah, I've always been a Premiere guy, and I have a hard time picturing myself moving away from that. What's up, Brad? Brad Smith in the UK. We got a couple of people in France, which is pretty cool. SO Gaming's in Mexico. Awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see where everyone's from. So I'm gonna go back to working on this set, and it's pretty much done. I'm gonna make a couple, might make a couple minor tweaks, but I'm gonna try to just plow through a bunch of these today. I filmed like 10 bands on Sunday, and I want to get them all edited today, edited and then queued up for release. So let's see how far I can get before I pass out. What's up? We got someone in Serbia again. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Andy.
So tonight's the last night of a little free show run with Fire Burn. It's been an honor to play with them. I foresee more stuff together in the future.
Okay, let's do it. Together, fight up, I will be fucking around the whole
a song like Philadelphia, huh? With that in mind, here's an original.
Thank you, Gib, all the time.
Cool. So I'm pretty happy where this video is at. Like I said, I spent a lot of time last night. I spent like an hour yesterday working on Fireburn, just getting all the settings right. So I'm basically applying the same settings to this video. So the process does speed up the later videos. So Vincent is asking if I know any experienced coders. Not off the top of my head. If I think of anyone, I'll let you know. I mean, I know coders, but I don't know anyone who has the time right now to do anything. I've heard of Straight and Alert Records. I don't know who's on them or what they've put out, but I've heard the name. I don't know where they're from. But if you want to give them a plug, definitely put a link in the chat and I'll check it out. So I'm basically going to put the final touches to this video, which is I need to add in the logo here for the band, which is here. So this part is pretty standard. Every video has a title screen like this, where it's the band logo and then information like the date of the show and then the venue and where it was. So I just center that and then we're good to go. What do we got here? Oh, it's from France. Okay. Interesting. I did not know that. So I also set up these like widgets. So I'm trying to use Streamlabs right now. And I set up these widgets that will pop up alerts on the screen anytime someone subscribes or donates, and I don't know if it's actually working. I'm curious to see what happens if I do a test. So I'm just gonna test this right now.
He get money.
Let's see if that worked. All right, hopefully you heard that. So Streamlabs basically lets you set up these like alerts. So I set it up so anytime someone donates or subscribes or sponsors or does a super chat or pledges on Patreon, a little thing should pop up on the screen. I don't know. I thought it'd be kind of funny. We'll see if it actually works. That was just a test that I ran. Hopefully it actually works for real, for real. Oh yeah, Rix, is that, I don't know, is it pronounced Rix? Or, I don't know how to say it, but I've heard the name, and I think I've heard a couple songs, and I really need to see them live. I've not had the chance to do that yet, so hopefully soon I can do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm basically going to be adding in, I basically want the video to fade in roughly when they start playing, so I'm going to, probably around here is when I'll do it. So I'll play it for you so you can actually hear what I'm talking about.
So, you want to just get right into this and start ripping. Right. Thanks, Joe. Very, very.
As long as you want us, we'll keep coming back.
So that's basically it for this set. So the one of the more time. So this last thing that I was doing was basically adding. Follow the lead about Kim. Follow the lead about Kim. There we go. Basically adding in this fade in of the logo and fade out. So that's actually pretty time consuming. The more videos I do, I basically have to go through and add these, like these are called keyframes. So that here I'm basically fading in the title screen and at the same time fading out the video and also fading out the audio. So that ends up being one of the more time consuming things. I basically have to do that for every video. I have to add in the opening fade in and fade out, and I would like to automate that somehow if I could, but I'm not there yet. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to queue this up for encoding. You can't see it on my screen right now, but I'm just setting up my export settings that I'm going to use. So let's see. So this was a 48-minute set. It's going to be about 3.5 gigs, which is what I expected. So I'm going to queue that up. And then let's see what we got. So it's taking a minute. Here we go. All right, so I have Fireburn and Kill Your Idols all set. So I'm just gonna keep going on. I'm gonna go on to the next set. What do we got? We have let's see. I'm probably gonna work on Berthold City. So Berthold City is it's members. It's Andrew from Strife. He plays guitar in Strife, so it's his new band. He sings for them. I don't know who the other members are from, but they're really good, and they're all super nice people. So I was glad to check them out. So what I'm gonna do is I've loaded up the project file. Basically, when I'm working on videos from a show, I create these basically empty project files that have. So if you look at the screen, you'll see like it already has the date and the venue. So this show is at Underground Arts in Philadelphia. It was on April 8th. So that's all that's in there right now. So what I need to do is I need to actually import the audio and video, which I'm going to do now. That'll take a second. And then once they're in here, I need to drop them into this timeline. So this blue track here is basically the audio and video from my camera, and this green track is the audio from my digital audio recorder. So when I'm recording these shows, I end up using a separate mic. This is the old one that I used to use, but the new one that I have is very similar to this. But basically, this is what I use to record the audio. This is called the Zoom H4n. I'm using the H6 now. You can't go wrong with really either. They're both really good. So what I need to do now is, because these are two separate sources, I need to sync them. So basically when I'm filming, I'll press record on the camera, and then I'll press record on the actual mic. But they might be off by like a second or two, so what I need to do is sync them. So I'm using a plugin called Pluralize, which will take any number of audio and video tracks and automatically sync them. So if this were a multicam shoot, if I had like 5 camera angles running for this and a bunch of different audio sources, I could drop them into a timeline, run Pluralize, and Pluralize will automatically sync them, which is very, very helpful, and it saves a lot of time. So this is going to take a second to run. It's basically going to analyze the audio track and sync them. So while that's going, I'm going to just check out some of the comments here. Oh, how do I do that thing with the opacity? So Lucas Nazato is asking, how do I do that with the opacity? So let me see if I can do this. Oh, shit. Give me 1 second. Let me reset my workspace. Okay. So here's how you do it. So this is here's what so these two tracks are the opening video tracks. So basically you have the hate5six logo and then this title screen. So what I do is I right click on wait, where do I go? Oh, yeah, okay. So this is in Premiere. What I do is I right click on this track and I go to show clip keyframes and I select opacity. So it's actually already selected, but this is what you would do. You just click on opacity and it brings up this thing called the keyframes. So what you do is I can delete. Let me delete these keyframes. So this bar here, this bar is the opacity level. So if I bring this down, you'll see on the screen the opacity drops. So here we're at about like 50%, and if I go to 20%, it's really, really faded. And if I go to 0, you can't see it at all. So 100% is the full image, 50% is half opacity, and then you can also bring it down all the way. So what I do is I add these keyframes. So basically, I hold down Control and I click, and I add a point there, and I add another point here. And if you drag it down, you get this effect where this line is showing how the opacity changes. So basically, here, everything's just constant. But if I bring down this keyframe all the way, what happens is you get this fade-in effect. So it's just fading in, then here it stays at 100%. And then roughly here, I'm going to add in the fade out. So again, I do the same thing. I hold down Control and I click, and then I hold down Control like a little later, hold down Control click, and then I pull it down with my mouse. So what you get is this this effect where you're fading in, it's holding it for a little bit, and then it fades out. So that's how I do it with keyframes. It's a pretty easy way to just add in quick fade in, fade outs. So what else do we have here? So 12 viewers is pretty low. We're up to 18 right now. Yeah. So yesterday was my first live stream on YouTube, and I had like almost 40 viewers, which is cool. I'm hoping that over time this can build up, but I don't know. Maybe people don't want to hear me talk. I mean, I don't want to hear myself talk. I'm kind of annoying. So Kevin Ralph is asking where I put the digital audio recorder. I can't show you because I'm using my camera to record the stream, but basically this sits on top of the camera. Actually, I have an old camera. Let me get it, and I'll show you exactly how it works. All right, so this is my old Canon GL2. I had this thing for a couple years, many years actually, and a lot of the early hate5six videos are with this. It's basically the same shape as the camera that I'm using now, but a lot of these cameras have a this sort of like hot shoe mount. If you can see it, basically you can slide something in here, and you can mount different kinds. You can like mount a light, or you can mount an external mic or whatever. But I have. I'll show you what I have. So you can buy this basically screw mount. If I can unscrew it, I'll show you how it works. Give me 1 second. This is like jammed in here for some reason. Of course it happens when I'm live. It wants to jam up. But give me one. I think I have another one somewhere here. Yeah. Here we go. These things are very easy to lose, and I end up always losing them, and then then I have to buy new ones, and I find the original. It's a pain in the ass. Fuck, they're all like jammed. All right, here's one that works. God, that was annoying. So basically, how it works is, it's basically a threaded screw. It's a screw with these sort of basically like thick washers that slide up and down. So how it works is, I screw one end onto the back of the audio recorder like that. And these things are super cheap. These are like a couple bucks on Amazon, or if you go to any camera store, they should have it. So that screws in there like that, and the other end, it slides into this shoe, and then you can screw it down. And so how it works is, it's basically mounted on top of the camera like that. So, and it's directional too. So if I'm like panning towards the band, these mics are gonna sound louder because I'm facing sort of the amps and the instruments. But if I pan away towards the crowd, you're gonna also have that sort of like it's a phasing issue. So you're gonna, if you're watching the video and I'm panning towards the crowd, you're gonna hear less of the band because I'm literally turning away from the band. But that's literally how I do it. I keep it mounted on top of the camera, and it's easier. I mean, I could keep it by the soundboard, but I prefer keeping it next to me in case the batteries die, or if I need to adjust the volume. It's much easier for me to do it than to have to run through the crowd of people to the soundboard to fix it. So that's essentially the trick. Is this little mount here lets you attach the recorder to the top of the camera. And again, I don't know why these things are like jammed up, but I'm gonna need these. I might be filming a show tonight, so I need to unscrew these at some point today. What do we got here? Let's see. Talk about my musical background. I've never been in a band. I've always loved music. I've always loved live music, live recordings. I've sung with bands live, but I've never. I tried teaching myself guitar, but I gave up on that because I wanted to spend more time filming and learning how to be a better video editor. So that's the extent of my music career. What's up, Keith? Keith Frank says a longtime fan. It's cool to see. It's cool to see people checking out Sage. So if you haven't heard, there's a link below. I have a band recommendation app called Sage. It's if you go to hate5six.com/sage, it's a very useful recommendation tool for finding new bands. There's about 200,000. There's 200,000 bands in the database, and it'll recommend new bands to you based off of bands that you currently like. Let's see, what do we got here? I was not at Damage City, so I filmed the pre-show at United Blood last Thursday in Richmond. So that was Striking Distance and Count Me Out, Candy, Naysayer, and a bunch of other bands. I didn't stick around for United Blood, and I didn't stick around for your Damage City, mostly because I'm working on the Sound and Fury videos. So actually, I released the Harley Flanagan set just like an hour ago. So I have a lot on my plate right now. I'm trying to get all of the Sound and Fury stuff done in April. So doing another fest was just gonna, it was just too much for me to take on right now. So I unfortunately had to sit out. But I would like to come back next year for sure. So that's it. What's up, Marvin? Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate that. So I'm going to go back to editing. So what I'm working on now, like I said, is Berthold City. They are from LA. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the first couple minutes of the set. And while I'm doing that, I need to actually, so I don't actually have a logo for Berthold City. So like I said, every video opens up with a title screen that has the band logo. And I've never filmed Berthold City, so I actually don't have their logo yet. So I'm gonna try to track that down on Facebook or on their Bandcamp. I'm gonna find a version of their logo somewhere. And then, so while I'm tracking that down, I'm gonna play the first couple minutes of the set just so you can hear them, and then I'll go back to editing it. So Lucas is asking how I do the audio treatment. So what I'll do is, like I said, I'm gonna play the first couple minutes while I get their logo. When I come back, I'll talk a little bit more about how I do the audio treatment, and then I'm happy to answer some more questions about that. But I'm going to mute my mic just so you're not getting any weird feedback, but I'm going to play the, like I said, the first couple minutes of this set.
Follow the leader, follow the leader.
Hold on. Well, I have to sync it first, and then I'll be good to go. So this is going to take a second. All right, here we go. So I'm going to drop that here. So this is the untreated audio. So this is the raw audio that I get from my Zoom audio recorder. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to mute myself and play it. So hopefully you guys dig it. This is Berthold City from LA.
Some traffic.
What did they talk? Wait, 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 Lord! Into the left for dead. Don't let life pass you by. This is the new song. It's called What Time Takes. You guys feeling good
All
tonight?
right. Sorry, I had to take a phone call, but I'm back now. So let's see what we got here. We're up to 18 people watching. What's up, Junior Bonser from Indonesia? I get a lot of requests to come to Indonesia. If someone wants to pay for my flight, I will gladly come to Indonesia. But until then, I'm stuck here in Philly. Chrissy's asking if I'm doing anything on Turnstile. So Turnstile's playing in Philly in a couple weeks. I might try to shoot it. They're playing at a venue that's a little difficult to film at. I'm hoping I can get permission to, but we'll see. I do have a calendar of upcoming shows that I'm going to be shooting. So they're checked off as a maybe. It's just a matter of getting permission to shoot there. Do I get sick of the tough guy attitude to hardcore? I do. It gets a little redundant. If every band is all about fucking beatdown, it's just there's only so much of that I can take. Roy Batty. I'm glad you like the 108 hoodie. I'm a big fan. Good to see other people were into it. That might be Nick from Terror on drums. I don't know. Maybe. It's a good question. So I'm going to go back to Lucas was asking a little bit about what I do for audio treatment. So I'll walk through that briefly, just so you have a sense of what's going on. So what you just heard was the original untreated audio from my setup. So what I'm doing here is, so I already did a lot of audio treatment on the Fireburn set, which they played the same show. So I already created a preset here. So if you look at the top right corner, I created this preset called Fireburn at Underground Arts. So I'm basically going to drop it here. So what I'll do is, so what this preset is basically a parametric EQ, multiband compression, and some basic mastering that I do. And I also did a little bit of adjustments on the image, so you can see like before and after. So this is without, this is the raw video, and then I basically did a little bit of adjustments on the RGB curves just to brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to focus on the audio just to give you a sense of what I'm doing. It's a shame that I can't get it to show up on the screen because it's a pop-up, and OBS. So I'm using OBS to do the screen capture. It's not showing up the pop-up, so you can't actually see what I'm doing, but I can try to talk through it. So the first step that I do for the audio treatment is I apply a parametric equalizer, and what I'm doing here, so parametric equalizer, for those of you who don't know, it's a way of selecting certain frequency ranges and either bumping up the amplitude or decreasing the amplitude. So what I do is, things like vocals and like cymbals and some of the guitar end up being at the higher end of the audio spectrum, and things like the bass and kick drum are at the lower end. So the first step for the audio treatment that I do is I bump up the highs just so you can hear a little bit more of the vocals, hear a little bit more of the crowd, and I also bump up a little bit of the O end just to sort of give it a little bit of beefiness to it. And I bump up the mids as well too, so you can't see it, but I'm basically tweaking a curve. And so the curve you can imagine is you have the low end here, and you have, I really wish I can get this to show up, but so you have like a curve. It starts out as a straight line. I bump up the high end a little bit, and I bump up the low end, and I add a little bit of the mid-range too. If you look, I think if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, if you look closely, you can see the actual values that I'm using. So if I scroll down, you can see that. So what you have these sort of things like the low shelf frequency, the high shelf frequency, and then these sort of EQ bands, and you can set the frequency and the gain. So here, the low shelf frequency is at 37.25 hertz, and the gain is 10.11 decibels. So what I've done is basically things that are sound, the acoustic sounds in the range of 37.5 hertz are being bumped up by 10 decibels. So I'm beefing up the low end there. So what I'll do is I'll play. What I'll do is I'm gonna disable these changes, and then partway through I'll enable them so you can actually hear the effect of doing some of this EQ. And then so once that's done, then I'll walk through. It's much simpler. I'll walk through the multiband compression and mastering as well. So here's what it sounds like without any audio treatment, and then partway through I'll toggle on the EQ so you can actually hear the difference.
Thank you for showing up early.
right, so hopefully you heard that. So without doing the audio treatment, it sounds very muffled and very like compressed, very like tight. But once you apply the parametric EQ and you bump up the high end, it opens it up a little bit and it makes it feel like more of the ambient feeling of being at the show. So that's sort of the vibe that I like. I like sort of the video to feel like you're actually there. So bumping up the high end helps with that. So Blood, Sweat, and Tears is asking, do I ever get the mixing board audio? So yeah, so for like, this is hardcore, I will hire a sound guy. So I'll hire my friend Len Carmichael, who runs a studio called Landmine Studios. He will come out with his multi-track recording rig, and he'll record all like 16 channels, and he will mix and master. Well, he'll do the engineering and the recording, and then we have a small team of people who volunteer their time to basically mix and master this audio, the audio for that. So it really depends. So for a show like this, I didn't bother getting the board because doing the board stuff just makes it slows down the release cycle. So for a lot of these shows, I basically just get the ambient audio and that's it. For bigger shows, I will hire a sound guy and get the audio. Oh, okay, so Keith is saying if I do a display capture, that will actually fix it. Let me see if I can do that. Let me see here. Oh, shit, you're right. Okay, that works. So let me do this. Let's see. I'm going to turn off my window capture and I'm going to turn on the display capture and let me resize this. Oh shit, it fucks up with the framing, but I think that should work. All right, so hopefully you see that now. Okay, hopefully you see this on the screen now. This pop-up is what I'm talking about. This is the parametric equalizer. So Lucas, let me know if you see this, because this is going to help you help explain what I'm trying to do here. Also, that's a very good tip. I've been trying to figure out how to do get the capture pop-up. So this is you just saved you just saved the day. So much love to Keith Frank. What's up, C-Dot? Thanks for the kind words. So what I have here is the parametric EQ. So like I was saying, here, I think let me disable this, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like without. So this is what a parametric EQ looks like without doing anything. I'm gonna mute the audio just so you can't, because I don't want to get any weird feedback, but you'll see what I mean. So this is what I was saying, where everything is without doing any any sort of treatment on the EQ. This is sort of how the audio looks. So here on the right you have the high end. So high end, like 18, you can change this to be whatever you want. So you can see this H here for high. You can define what the high end is that you want it to be, but by default it's like 1800. So let's just put it back to where it was, or 18,000 hertz, I should say. So what happens is, like I said, if you pull this up, you're lifting up this high end. So you can actually see. I have the audio muted so you can't hear it, but this is the audio track, obviously. So, like I said, I tend to bump up the high end. And so you have these other frequency bands. So this L here is the low band, and I bumped that up a little bit. So what you have here in the middle are these like mid-range frequencies that you can bump up. And so you have this it's called parametric equalizer because there's different parameters that you can set. So Q here is also known as like, oh, you can think of it as the width. So if you increase the Q parameter, it tightens up the width. So what happens is So this this point here, it's centered on the frequency 36, or basically it's centered at 37,000 or 3,700 hertz, and what the width does, it you know, you can make this curve really tight so that you're only pulling up this one frequency. So sometimes what happens is if I'm converting, like if someone sends me a tape, like a show from an old so this is an old recording on a high 8 tape from 1999. So there ends up sometimes being a lot of like hiss from just like the tape, or like a VHS tape will have a lot of hiss. So what you can do is you can use the parametric equalizer to find the frequency of that hiss, and you can isolate it. And there's other ways of doing it. This is one way to do it. There's something called like a notch filter, which will allow you to do it, but it's essentially the same idea where you can essentially hone in on what this frequency is, and then you can pull it down. So here, for example, let's say for example, there was a high pitch sound. There was some sort of pitch at the 3 kilohertz range that 3 kilohertz or 3,000 hertz range that we wanted to pull out or remove them from the video. So what you could do is you could set the parametric EQ to be at well, here you can just enter it in to 3,000, and then you can just simply pull it down, and that'll knock it out. But what I end up doing is I end up like, I personally like setting these values somewhere between 1 to 2 for the width of this curve. And what that ends up doing, it just I find that it smooths out the transition between some of the adjustments that I'm making. And just again, I make this disclosure every time. I'm not an audio engineer. I'm sure that I'm doing things that are completely wrong, and I'm sure if there's an audio guy watching or audio person watching, they might be cringing at what I'm doing here. But this is my way of doing it. So what I like to do is, like I said, I bump up the highs a little bit. So I'll actually go to the. These are the settings that I'm using for this set. So like I said, I bumped up the high ends just a little bit. I bumped up the lows just a tad in the low end, and I bring in the mids a little bit more. So what I'll do is I'm gonna mute my mic, and I'm gonna play some of the audio back, and I'll show you what happens as I'm adjusting the EQ, and hopefully you can actually see the difference as this is being adjusted. So let me I'm gonna kill my mic, and you'll see what I mean. So hopefully, if you were watching and listening, that gave you a sense of what happens when you adjust the parametric EQ. So hopefully that answered your question. I don't know. If not, let me know. A couple of the other things that I do are I apply a multi-band compressor, which I'll show you here. This is basically there's presets. I'm not an audio engineer, so I don't fuck with this too much, but there's presets that I use. There's ones that'll make it sound like a walkie-talkie, or you're talking through a phone. Ones that'll bump up the guitar or remove hiss. There's these presets that'll enhance the high end or enhance the low end. There's ones that'll do something called a classical master. So I'm essentially just using this enhance low preset. It really depends on the show and depends on the venue. I'll basically toggle through these and pick the one that just sounds the best and roll with it. So that's the multi-band compressor. And then I apply some basic mastering. So again, I'm using these different presets. There's a bright hype, which will bump up the high end a lot more. This club master preset just sounded pretty good, so that's what I'm using here. And that's basically it. And so this set is pretty much good to go. Earlier, while I was playing the set, I actually pulled out their logo. So what I'm gonna, thankfully their Bandcamp, bertholdcity.bandcamp.com, had their logo, which I was able to retrieve with Photoshop. So I'm just gonna center this, and we should be good to go. And again, so let's see, this is odd. So pull this back a little bit. So we're good to go. So like I was doing before, I'm going to add in the keyframes just to fade in and fade out. Just to answer a couple questions, let's see. What's up, Jackson? Thanks for tuning in. Do I ever think about doing a documentary or interviews? I would like to do a documentary at some point. I don't know. I don't have a good topic in mind. I have plenty of live footage, but I have not thought of a good idea for doing a documentary, so not yet. So band interviews are something that I'd like to start doing. So for those of you who don't know, I recently signed up for Patreon. So Patreon is a way, there's a link at the bottom. Patreon is a way to support what I'm doing with hate5six, because I'm trying to do this full time. So I have about 400, so there's also a counter here. I have 400 subscribers on Patreon. I set up a goal, so once I hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to start doing regular band interviews. So if people on Patreon want me to interview a certain band and ask certain questions, I'm going to make an attempt to start doing that. So I'm hoping if Patreon picks up and I can start paying my bills with it, then I will have more time to actually do band interviews and make that additional content for people to enjoy. So pretty soon, I'm at 401. I need 500, and then the band interview stuff will start. Have I? Yeah. So I've been to Germany a couple times. I was there with Mindset for 2 of their brief tours, and I really enjoyed it. I would really like to come back. If any of these German festivals would want me to come out, I would gladly come out to shoot it. I basically need help getting out there with flights, and a little bit of assistance. But yeah, I would love to come out there. Every video I see is incredible. So I would love to do it. So yeah, I'm gonna finish up the set. Basically, the final steps are to add in the fade in and fade out, and so I'm gonna mute my mic just so I'm not getting feedback. But you'll see what the final steps are to this. It's basically just tying up the loose ends, and so once that's ready, then I'm gonna move on to the next one. I'm trying to plow through all like 10 sets that I had to do today. So let's see how far I can get.
From Richmond, I want to thank Please Die for switching spots with us. We got caught in some traffic. Help us out. I think Please Die. Please Die for us out if you know the fucking words. We all must face our moment of truth. Berthold City. We are Berthold City. We got merch in the back.
So that's it for Berthold City. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to queue this up for... Oh, so now you should see it. I'm pulling up my export settings. So what I do is I have a custom preset here for hate5six. Right now, I basically export videos at 720p. So later this year, I'm going to start exporting at 1080, but I'm still doing 720. I'm probably going to wait for, I think This Is Hardcore this year is when I'll debut doing full 1080. I recently upgraded my Vimeo account from a Plus account to a Pro account, so I have much more bandwidth, and I can actually upload a lot more now. So yeah, so look forward to seeing full 1080 videos very soon. So what I'm going to do is basically save this. Whoops. I'm going to queue it up. And this is my render queue. So basically what I do is I edit a bunch of videos, I add them to this render queue, and then I'll basically hit render, and then I'll go out, I'll leave the house for a couple hours, you know, actually interact with people and see the sun, and then when I come back, these will be rendered, and then I can upload them and add them to the queue, the release queue. What's up, Elise Enriquez? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so in terms of like so if it's like a couple, if it's, you know, if it's a relatively small fest, then cover my flight and I'll come out and do it. But if there's like 50 bands, 60 bands, like I'm gonna need something to I'm gonna need some sort of compensation for my time, because like that's a lot of bands to film. I would not like. It really depends on the number of bands, number of stages, things like that. But pretty much, I really just want my flight covered and, you know, some little extra for my time. But that's basically it. I'm not looking to make a fuck ton of money off shooting a show, you know. So that's pretty much where I'm at. You know, I don't have like a fixed rate in mind, but again, it depends on the lineup. It depends on the number of bands. You know, if it's a one-off show and someone covers my flight, that's fine. But like I said, if it ends up being a huge lineup, that's a huge like physical and emotional effort that I need to put out. Like I need to be like mentally prepared to film 60 bands in a weekend, and that's something that I need to be, you know, need some sort of compensation for. So Jackson's asking how does Premiere compare? So I've only ever used Premiere. So basically I've been using Premiere for the last, gosh, I don't even know how many years now at this point. Pretty much ever since I started editing, I've been using Premiere. So I can't really say one way or the other. Shit. So OBS just like crashed. So I need to restart Premiere. Give me 1 second. so Premiere does this thing sometimes where the cursor just disappears, and so I don't understand why. So let me restart this. So yeah, I can't really tell you how it compares to Final Cut. So a lot of people use Final Cut, they really like it, but I've only ever used Premiere. I don't know if you were watching earlier, but I announced, so I've been using 5.5 for the last like many years, but very recently did I switch over to Creative Cloud 2018. So I'm paying the monthly subscription to use it. It's like $20 a month. So that's another reason why I started the Patreon, is like if people can help donate a little bit each month, then I can cover some of the monthly costs. So basically, like, I'm paying for monthly use of Premiere. I'm paying a monthly subscription to use Vimeo. So there are a lot of hidden costs for running the site. So that's how when people donate via Patreon or via, so there's a Streamlabs link at the bottom. When people donate, it helps cover those monthly costs because they definitely add up. So where am I at now? Let's go to Violent Society. I'm trying to think who's next. Yeah, let's do Violent Society. Again, this is the same show. This one should be quick. I have, I can turn on the, there we go, we're back up. So I'm gonna, like I said, step one is to import the audio and video. So let's find that here. Drop that in. What do we got here? So again, this blue track is the audio and video signal from my camera. This green track is the signal from my digital audio recorder. And now, finally, now that we have pop-ups, you can actually see Pluralize. So Pluralize is this plugin that does audio and sync in seconds. You can actually open up a standalone application if you want to, but I typically just leave it in Premiere. I think I got it for like $100. It saves so much time, and it's very if you're doing a lot of audio and video editing that requires you to sync multiple things together, I highly recommend using Pluralize. It's by Red Giant. They have a bunch of other plugins, but Pluralize is the one that I use the most. So what you do is you drop in these audio and video tracks, and then you hit synchronize, and you let it do its thing. So that'll take a minute. What's up, Ugly Knees? Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad I got a good shot of you during Knock Loose. So when I'm filming a show, I'm trying to capture, obviously, the band, but I'm also trying to capture what's going on in the crowd. So there's a lot of movement between panning from the band to the crowd and zooming in on people in the crowd, because I'm trying to capture what everyone's doing and where everyone's at. So this is syncing still. This is going to take a minute. We're still hovering at 18 viewers, which is kind of sad, but hey, it's better than no one. I'm just checking some email here. Nothing interesting. Checking Twitter. So if you haven't seen it, I released the Harley Flanagan set from Sound and Fury. So that's on hate5six. It's also on the Vimeo channel. What do we got here? All right. So Pluralize does save time, but it can take a little bit. The most use you get out of it is, like I said, if you have, so the Sound and Fury stuff, which I'll be working on tomorrow. If you want to tune in to see that, you can. That has like 5 camera angles, each with their own audio sources, and then there's a soundboard audio recording. So there's a lot going on in there. So basically what I do is I drop them all into Pluralize, and it'll automatically move everything, and it'll sync it. Sometimes like one video angle might cut out if a battery or memory card needs to be changed out. So Pluralize will automatically adjust things for you, so you don't have to do it by hand. So it's a huge time saver. Where are we at here? We're at 40%. I'm gonna sit down. So yeah, a lot of the editing process is just like waiting. Not a lot, but some of it's just waiting for things to be synced or waiting for things to be exported. So this is my life. I basically just sit at a computer all day. If I'm not filming a show, I'm sitting in front of a computer. Will I be streaming at the same time tomorrow? Probably. So I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow at, let me see, 9:15. I should make note of that. Yeah, I have a doctor's appointment at 9:15, so I'll probably be back around noon. So probably I'll be streaming around noon or 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time again. And like I said, I'm trying to do this pretty often, so I'm hoping I can get into a good group here. Oh yeah, so Unartig NYC. That's a great channel. That's run by oh my gosh, Torsten Meyer he's a German guy from I think he's German or he's German. But he was living in New York for a very long time, and been running this channel, Unartig NYC. If you haven't heard it, definitely check it out. He's back in Germany, I think, but he has basically he has people filming shows in New York who are more or less correspondents, and he uploads their stuff to his channel. It's funny. It was back in 2006 or 2007. 108 played a show at Middlesex County College in New Jersey, and this was before hate5six was a thing. And I saw him filming the show, and I went up to him after the show, and I was like, "Hey, I really, I asked him, I was like, "Are you going to post the video somewhere? Because I'd really love to see it." And he looked at me, and he said in his German accent, he's like,
Follow the leader.
and I was offended. I was like, "Damn, this guy's filming the show, and he doesn't want to post the video." And I was like, I went home that night, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start filming shows, and I'm going to put everything online so people can watch it. Torsten telling me no was definitely a big catalyst for doing hate5six and wanting to share videos. But it's funny. I talked to him a couple years ago, and I was like, so why? And he ended up posting the video a couple years, pretty recently. But I asked him, I was like, why did you not post it? I was really upset by that. And he told me it wasn't a personal thing. It was just that he wasn't happy with how YouTube was compressing videos, because in the early days of YouTube, all YouTube videos looked like shit. So the reason he said no was because he didn't want his video looking like shit. And I respect that. So at the time, I took it personally, he's like, I took it fuck you, kid, I'm not posting this video for you to watch. But it was more of, yeah, I don't want to post it because it's going to look like crap. So anyway, I have no beef with Torsten. I'm actually glad that we had that interaction, because it was an inadvertent inspiration for me to do what I'm doing. What's up, Thrift Lord? Thanks for tuning in. What's up, G-Dub? Yeah, it's funny. It's a lot of people are always like, man, I wish people were filming shows back in the day. There's still a lot of video out there. I mean, people are sending me, I have stacks of tapes. This is just a couple, but I have hundreds of tapes that people are sending me of shows that they filmed in the 90s and early 2000s that I'm going to be slowly digitizing. But yeah, I'm sure there's a mountain of things out there that haven't been released yet that are just sitting on tapes. So if you're sitting on tapes, I highly encourage you to digitize them. All right, I'm going to stop rambling for a little bit. So basically, Pluralize finished syncing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this sync sequence. I'm going to drop it in here. I'm going to mute the track from the video and basically just rely on the audio from the digital audio recorder. I'm going to play a little bit from this just to give you guys a sense of what this band is about. This is Violent Society. Really good punk band. While this is running, I'm going to look for their band logo. Again, so that's another time consuming. I need to basically dig up their logo. Got my dick stuck in a toaster. Is asking about varials. I've only filmed varials once, and I haven't seen them since. But if I get to see them again, I will definitely film them and definitely post that. So hopefully that will be something to look out for. I'm gonna kill the mic, and I'll let you guys listen to the first couple minutes of this set.
This one goes out to Please Die. Ladies up to acting back. They're looking to control the act. The last of you shot is the hotel who is work. Just another victim, dying of again. Stop you! What again? Stop you! What again? Stop you! What again? Stop you! Look at me, that's why they care. But that's it, I'm not going to care. That's the hotel wait this one. Never mind the realist. Staring back at you, what again? Stop you! Not again! Stop you! What again? Stop you! What again? Stop you! Yes, I do! Yes, I do! Yes, I do! I'm gonna know if anything will do something. Sick, it's a feeling inside. I'm living proof that the punks will never die. It's only your life. I call the rat trap, this is not the mind. I'll be there again when there's no one left behind. It's only your life. Right girl, fuck you in the ass. Give me all your blood, I'll burn the ass. It's only your life. 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 It's only your life.
Cool. So that was the first couple minutes of Violent Society. I basically applied the same settings that I did for Fireburn and Kill Your Idols, so this is more or less done. While that was running, I think I can actually show you now. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so what happens is, what ends up happening is I need a band logo. So what I did was I literally went on Facebook. I typed in Violent Society. I found their Facebook page, and then I found this logo. So while that was playing, I basically pulled out a transparent version of this. So I used this magic wand tool to basically select. Whoops. Not that. Basically to remove the background, kill the black, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, I did that, and so I have this, this logo here. So now I can actually save this and import it into the video, so I'll do that now. So I'm going to rewind to the beginning. So here you'll see this pop-up window, and I can actually load in their logo now. So that's it. So that's like another time-consuming thing is like I need to, if it's a band that I've never filmed before, I need to basically find their logo. And if it's not transparent, I need to, a transparent background lets me put it in to the video without having anything behind it. So sometimes I need to use Photoshop to pull out the band logo like that. But once I've done it once, I save the logo, and I never have to do it again for that band, unless the band changes the logo. So every now and then a band will have a new logo, and I need to update what I use. So that's basically it there. Gonna answer some more questions here. Let's see, Jeffrey Wilk is asking if I'm filming or recording This Is Hardcore. I am. So this will be the first This Is Hardcore I filmed was 2009. So I've done 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. This is my 10th year, which is crazy. My 10th year of hate5six and 10th year of filming This Is Hardcore. So I will be there filming every band, as I always do, and it'll be a good time. My favorite new school hardcore band. I really like bands like Incendiary and Fury. Of the really newer bands, I really like Candy a lot too. Those are bands that I've been jamming a lot as well. What's up, Jay Davidson 91? Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing on Patreon. So I've been plugging it a lot. So Patreon is a platform that I signed up for like 2 weeks ago. It's a way for people who like hate5six to make recurring monthly donations. So you can donate as little as you want, but you know, I basically set the minimum to $2, but you can donate $1 or 50 cents, whatever you want. You can donate $5, $10, whatever you're able to do. But there's different rewards that you get for subscribing. So if you're a subscriber on Patreon, subscribers can vote for what videos come out next. So basically, hate5six is completely controlled by the community at this point. So if you're a subscriber on Patreon, you can go on and vote for what bands you want to be released tomorrow. And so every morning, the website will calculate what bands have the most votes, and the band with the most votes is what gets released that day. So at this point, the site is completely controlled by viewers. So if you want to have a say in what videos get released sooner than later, you can subscribe to hate5six on Patreon. And if you donate $5 per month, then you have voting control. Other things that you get are you get early access to certain videos. Once I start doing band interviews, Patreon subscribers will have early access to that. Once we get closer to This Is Hardcore, Patreon subscribers will be able to vote to let me know what bands they want me to have multiple cameras for. So typically I pick the bands that I think that are going to have really good sets that are worthy of multicam, but if there's a band that you think should be multicammed, then you should definitely vote for them, and I will use those votes as a way for determining what bands to be multicammed this year. So I'm trying to run hate5six as democratically as I can. So I really encourage people to subscribe on Patreon. Oh, so yeah, Jackson I just got your pledge, so thank you for that. I just saw the notification, so very cool. Yeah, so we're at the end of this editing for this set. The last things that I'm going to do, again, are just adding in the fade-ins, and that's going to be it. Lucas is asking if I like any Brazilian hardcore bands. If you have any suggestions for bands I should check out, let me know. Oh, so Cody has a good suggestion here. That might be it. Let me just. So Cody's suggesting that I. Let's see. Let's try it. Let's just try it with this Violent Society logo. Cody's suggesting that I go to select, color range. Let's see. Hold on. Let me deselect this. Color range. Select this. Okay, so if I... Oh, that's smart. That is very smart. So I did not know about the color range tool, but that just saves me so much time. So just to go over, so I got to give props to Cody Ostrander here. So what I was doing before was using this magic wand tool. If I pull up my toolbar here, you can see it. So this magic wand tool will basically... You can click on anywhere in the image, and it'll select everything that's connected to it of the same color, and you can set a threshold here. So if I set the threshold to like 10, and I select like a small area here, it's only going to select this tiny little region right here. Let me zoom in so you can actually see it. So what happens is if I bump up the threshold to like 100, and I click here, it pulls out much more. If you look at these dotted lines, you'll see what it selects. So it selects a lot of the logo, but it misses these little dots here because they're not connected to anything. So what I've been doing incorrectly for the last fucking whoever knows how many years is I was using the magic wand tool to, like, you know, select most of the logo and then going in here and then clicking on these tiny little dots and trying to get them. But as Cody pointed out, if you go to select and go to color range, you can basically say, all right, I'm going to use this eyedropper tool to select the black. You hit OK. And then it automatically selects everything that's black. And then if you just press delete, everything's gone. And then we're good. So that honestly saves me so much time. So thank you for that. I owe you one for that. So we're good to go. I'm gonna mute my. It's weird. I don't have a good way of killing the feedback that I get. So I like editing audio on my studio monitors, So if I had headphones on, that would solve the issue. But I'm using my studio monitor, so unfortunately, you're gonna get feedback from the monitors into the mic. So right now, until I find a better solution, I gotta kill the mic. But I'm gonna wrap up this set, and then we're gonna move on to the final set from the show, which was Please Die, and then we're gonna move on to the Race Trader show after that.
Joe Hardcore for, I want to thank Joe Hardcore. Here's Onside All Love. Punk band that you all love. Punk band that you all love. We're the vintage punk band that you all love. Good night. Have fun. Don't forget. Have fun. Don't forget to tip your bartender. Thank
So that's it for Violent Society. So what I'm going to do is, again, add this to my render queue. Violent Society at UArts. And we're going to queue it up. It's going to add it to my render queue, and then we're going to move on to the next set. How am I doing this? So I got 32 gigs left on my, so I have a separate hard drive that I export stuff to. It's a solid state drive. I have 32 gigs left on it, so it should be good for everything from today. So next up is Please Die. So let me find that here. So that's going to load up. Again, I need to drop in the audio and video tracks from here. I'm going to close this project, and here we go. So again, I'm going to drop in, again, step one is to run Pluralize on the audio and video. So we're going to do this, Pluralize, and run that. So that'll take a second. Damn, still got 12 people watching. I'm surprised people are still watching this shit. Like, this is very boring. I'm sure this is very boring to watch, but it's cool to see people are actually interested in joining me for this ride. So Pluralize is going. I'm checking Instagram. Cool. Again, just to plug it, 2 hours ago I posted the Harley Flanagan set from Sound and Fury. If you haven't checked it out, I definitely recommend it. I am working on the Sound and Fury videos from 2017. So Chris Avis, who used to run a site called Cavis Tapes, he passed away last July, tragically in a car accident. And he was a good friend of mine, and his family found his hard drive of his unedited Sound and Fury stuff, and they mailed it to me. And so I'm in the process of editing and releasing the stuff that Chris did not get a chance to do before he passed. So this is actually his hard drive, which is crazy that, like, and it's fun. It's when I opened up the hard drive, like everything in here is organized so perfectly. Like he has all the bands organized by day. He has like all the audio files ready. Everything's there, ready to be edited. And I'm like, fuck. He was like ready to just start releasing everything, and then his life got cut short. So I'm hoping to honor his memory by finishing the work that he did not get to finish. So if you go to hate5six.com/SAF Sound and Fury SAF 2017, there's a little blurb on there about Chris, and then there's a link to a PayPal account where you can do. If you like the videos, I highly encourage donating to the PayPal account. His family is starting a fundraiser in his name, a scholarship. So please, I highly suggest, if you like any of the Sound and Fury videos, to just throw a couple bucks to that PayPal. It'll add up, and it'll it's the best way we can honor Chris's memory and everything that he did for us. Cool. So this syncing is done. So again, I'm going to drop this in here. And so thankfully, I already have a Please Die logo, so I'm just going to pull that up from my archive.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Ooh, we got a follower. I don't know who that was. Here we go. Please Die. That's the Please Die logo, I think. Yeah. Here we go. Drop it in here. Go in here. Graphic. Insert graphic. Please Die. So unfortunately, Please Die has like a black part of their logo is black. So I think what I do, let me just double check. I'm trying to see if I add a white border to their logo in other videos. What do we got here? No, I don't. Okay. I was thinking about adding a white border, but I don't, so I'm just going to leave it as is. That's just how it's going to be. Shrink that a little bit, center it, move it up. Just so it's not hitting anything, and then we're going to center the whole thing. And that's their logo. Again, I'm going to apply the Fireburn preset, and you should at least see the difference. There you go, brightens it up a little bit. I'm going to kill the mic while I tweak this a little bit, and then we'll be good to go.
Follow the leader.
die.
Fire going as well, honey. Jay can't hit hard. Everyone's gonna make their Jay.
Please die, Philadelphia.
Fire going as well, honey. Jay can't hit hard. Everyone's gonna make their Jay.
Thank you, please die.
So that's it for Please Die. So like I said, like I spent a lot of time on the headliner, or the two headlining bands, like getting the settings right, and then I basically apply the same settings to the openers, so it speeds up the process quite significantly. I'm just gonna add this to the queue, and I think we're good to go. I'm at about like the 2-hour mark here. Okay, so I've been streaming for 2 hours. I need a fucking lunch break. I'm getting hungry. So I have these 5 bands edited. So this again was the second show from last Sunday. So I'm gonna go offline for a little bit. Maybe run some errands, get some food, and then maybe later today I'll go live to work on the second show. So the second show was, I'll tell you, it was 0 Hour, Paper Trail, Kayonashi, Cancer Priest, and Race Trader. So those are 5 more sets that I want to edit today. So that's all I got for now. Thanks for tuning in. If you subscribed on Patreon during this stream, thank you so much. I don't know if the shout outs were working. I have, like I said, I'm using Streamlabs to do this automatic alert on the screen that should show your name and like a thank you. So I don't know if that came up, but if not, I'm gonna give a quick plug right now to Jackson Costello and Eleanor Weatherby. If you're both watching, thank you for both for pledging. So yeah, I will be back on probably, I don't know, at some point later, once I feel like I'm nourished from having eaten something. But that's it for now. Hopefully I'll see you guys soon, and thanks for checking in.